My name is Nick Seacrest. I'm the Vice President of RX Ownership, and I cover the Central region, which is about 18 states in the Midwest. And what I'm here to talk about is the three things that you must be doing when you think about adding more revenue sources to your business. So with RX Ownership, what we do is we obviously help people buy, sell, and start up pharmacies, but we spend a lot of our time doing anymore is helping you make more money in your pharmacies. So it involves looking at your income statements, your balance sheets, getting you in a better position to make way more money than you're making today. So whatever your goals are, we try to align the revenue opportunities to the goals that you want to achieve. So when we think about adding revenue, not all revenue is good revenue, right? I think we've all pretty much experienced that over the last couple years. And I thought these are the three best things to think about before you go ahead and add revenue to your business. And we'll talk through some examples through the course of this, and if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand, and we'll make sure we discuss it. But the first thing you want to think about is where are those revenue opportunities, right? It's kind of a duh, but what opportunities do you have in your market? Do you understand your market? Do you understand the mix that you're in? Where can you go get more patients, or are there other services that you can offer that other people aren't offering? And we have resources to help you figure that out, obviously. The second thing is the capital cost to grow revenue. That means do you have the money and the resources to grow your revenue, right? Because it takes a long time, potentially, depending upon the revenue you're looking to add, to get paid by the insurance companies, potentially, to get paid from whoever the payer is. And you want to make sure you have enough money to be able to buy the equipment, the drugs, whatever is the revenue opportunity. And I'll talk through some examples about that too. But then the third thing, obviously, is there enough margin in the revenue that you're gaining to make it make sense? I think when we think about some prescription categories, do you make enough money to outlay a giant capital cost? In some cases, that's not the case. So I think the perfect example of this, maybe on revenue opportunities that I've seen people walk away from, would be the GLP or the semaglutide that you're probably typically filling. There's a lot of opportunity for it, right? You have a ton of people coming in organically to fill those prescriptions. We want to help those people the best we can. But a major problem is the capital cost to fill those prescriptions, right? They're very expensive. Depending upon how you fill it, if you use a coupon card from the manufacturer, it can take 30 to 60 days to get paid. And from the massive growth of those prescriptions over time, it's not uncommon if you're filling 10 a day of those, that's about $10,000 a day that you have to wait to get paid on. And if you don't have the proper capital to handle that, it puts you in a real bind. The third thing, obviously, with that is, am I making enough margin to wait for that money? Most people aren't. That's what I hear anymore, at least. So, if you're making $100 and you have to wait 30 days, it might make sense, depending upon how your debt is set up to handle that. But if you're losing money, probably it's not a great move, right? So, so actually on the flip side of that, if you think about, at least I've seen this personally, in a lot of cases, that's why you see a lot of people start compounding these products, right? Because you still have the opportunity in your marketplace, and we'll set aside all the legalities with compounding and what it takes to do all that, but the capital cost to do that is way less, right? And the margin is typically really healthy, like at least 50%, and most of the time, that's a cash-paying customer too, right? So they're going to get paid the day they come in to pick up that prescription. There's no longer waiting for that. Another thing I've seen as far as revenue opportunities go, you have a lot of revenue opportunities maybe within the patients you already have, just by tweaking a couple things in your business. So the perfect example of that would be if you're a traditional retail pharmacy today and there's nursing home or Medicare patients at home, you can do what's called long-term care at home. Are you guys familiar with that term? Some people doing that today at all? No? Okay. Basically, we can help you do this, and we have partners here at the show that can help you do this, but if you get set up as a combo pharmacy, which means you're basically a hybrid between a retail pharmacy and a long-term care pharmacy, it's much cheaper to get into that space and to adapt and get a separate MPI number. But a lot of those patients that you're already serving, the Medicare D patients that are at home, you can get separate contracts to get basically a long-term care contract on that patient to have significantly better margin. So again, to go back to the 3 points, the opportunities are actually already in your store. You just have to be able to recognize it, and we can help you do that. The capital cost to grow this, isn't really any different than what it is today for your normal wholesale business. So you may see an increase in script volume, but you can grow it slowly over time. That way the capital crunch isn't there. And if you are going to grow pretty rapidly, you just have to make sure you have a line of credit or access to the funds at a reasonable rate and term. Then the margin, obviously, in this example, way makes sense. I've talked to a couple owners that I've known for a long time, and the brand reimbursement is significantly better in a number of cases, like AWP minus 15 or better for certain contracts. So when you compare that to a traditional script, that's quite a bit better. So another example for 340B, or 340B, for other opportunities is 340B. Are you guys doing that at all today? Anybody doing that? Okay, awesome. Again, you already have the opportunity in your marketplace. You just have to know how to find it and talk to the right partners. So from a capital cost perspective for those opportunities, the capital cost is very insignificant compared to your normal business, because for most of you, you're not actually paying for the drugs at all. The hospital that you're partnered with would pay those drugs and would ship them to you. So your capital cost goes way down, and your margin would go significantly up. So traditional, or a lot of the pharmacies I work with, the gross margin on their 340B business could be 35 to 50%. It's way better than what you're probably seeing today in the 20 range, or maybe a little less even. So again, one thing I have seen, and Scott Miller, I think, made a mention about this up on stage yesterday, but a lot of people have a ton of opportunities within the relationships that they have in their community. The one example he gave up there yesterday, and I've seen this multiple times, is that gentleman that partnered with his school district to help them service those patients. I think it's becoming more clear and clear as the PBMs are having to shift their models a little bit, that the copay differential for a lot of patients, especially with self-insured employers, which would be in that school district, the copays are going up and up and up. And we all know the generic prices, at least over the last 5 years, have been deflationary, meaning they're going down. And that creates a pretty big gap to create more margin for yourself, to save the patient money, and to save the employer a significant amount of money. You just have to know how to talk to that employer to have this discussion with them, and it's something we can help you with too, to a certain degree. But again, the opportunity is right in your market. You all probably know someone that works at the school, someone you can communicate with. The capital cost to grow that sort of business or adapt your business to that wouldn't really be any different than what it is today. And in fact, a lot of cases, it could drive your capital cost down, because you're going to fill so many more generics relative to what your margin is going to be. Again, most cases in that scenario, you're probably going to make at least $10 a script and save the employer a ton of money. What was the other one I was going to talk about? Even as simple as OTC products. I know everybody has them. One thing that I've noticed, and if you look at our store over there, we have it over there too, but if you're putting the shelf or the price on the shelf itself, and I know it can cause some more work than normal, but I usually see a 10 to 15% lift in OTC sales when you do that. So from the studies I've read and the things I've seen, if you go to the grocery store or anywhere else that you shop, the price is always on the shelf. And people, for whatever reason, don't like to pick up the box and look at the price. So if they can read it on the shelf, they already know what the price is, and then they'll buy it. They're buying it with their eyes, basically, is what's going on. So if you can make that little bit of a tweak, what would a 10% lift in your OTC sales be? Well, it typically has a pretty good margin, 30 to 35%, maybe more. The capital cost to do it really isn't that significant. So again, you have the opportunity already within your purview. And that's where most of the opportunities really are. It's not really anything like grand you have to think about. It's making little tweaks along the way to your business and trying to find those little nuggets that you can tweak. And what ends up happening with most owners is if you tweak a little thing here or there, more things will come down the road. So like that long-term care at home example I gave, I've seen people start there, and it continues to grow and grow and grow and build on itself as you gain more patients, and then you could adapt into a skilled nursing opportunity. Skilled nursing, if you want to service those types of homes, the margin is typically very good. Capital costs could be significant as you bring on one home at a time. So things like that. Trying to think what other ones I had. I think I was going to mention. But we can help with a lot of this stuff too. The opportunities, I think for a lot of folks, you're in your store all day long, you're working your 9 to 10 or whatever, how long you're there for a long time, and it's really hard sometimes to see what's around you. We have a lot of tools and resources that we can help dive into your business to see, where your providers are at, where are the doctors at, what are they actually prescribing, right? I think sometimes, you'll have Dr. Smith down the road and you've known him for 20 years, and he's writing a significant amount of prescriptions, but maybe there's prescriptions that you're not getting that you could. The cash business in particular, I think you're going to continue to see grow and grow and grow, and there's a lot of opportunities with that. I know I gave the school district example earlier, but the margin or the copays are going to continue to go up, and I think what Part D happens next year, this is my opinion, but the Inflation Reduction Act, I think, is going to drive the copays higher because they're going to end up having to move more drugs up the tier channel. It's going to put more pressure on the seniors on the copay level. At the same time, like I was saying earlier, the generic cost is low, and there's plenty of opportunity to make way more margin than that. You just have to be able to do it in workflow, to have the discussion with people. And I've definitely seen the cash business grow for a lot of stores. I would say on average, the people or store owners that I work with, they're typically filling 2.5% to maybe 4% of their total prescriptions are cash. The high efficient operators with the big margin or the bigger margin, they're running like 15% cash. And you have to do it the right way. You don't want to violate UNC because that creates more problems, but there's definitely a lot of opportunities to market that opportunity to your client base. So, any questions? I know I'm talking fast. Questions? No questions? Oh, yeah. So the question was on the shelf label, on the dollar on the shelf, do you recommend putting the price on the box itself or just on the shelf? I think you can do both. We send you the stickers for the product, obviously, if it's easier for your system, but if you don't want to put them on the box, I think that's okay too. But definitely put them on the shelf. There's even some companies, and maybe you've seen this at your local grocery store, that they have digital shelf tags. So the prices can get updated that way. It's a lot easier to maintain. But again, it still meets that eyeball for the customer to see it. So, good question. Any other questions? Yeah. Is it violating third-party contracts? It's not if you make sure you have your usual and customary set appropriately. There's the gag clause rule for Part D. I'm not going to get into legalese about all of it, but the law says you can do it. You just want to make sure that you don't violate your usual and customary, because that's where you would have price adjustments that the PBMs will notice. But yeah, if the opportunity is there for the patient to save them money and for you to make a better margin, that's things that we want to focus on. So yeah, the key is to do it in workflow, honestly, if you can. Your pharmacy system sometimes can help with that, and there's other cost-plus programs out there that you can sign up for that will help you guide how to set the price. A lot of times that's the challenge, is there's so many drugs. How do you really know what your cost is relative to what you should charge them? Sometimes people can way overcharge potentially, or frankly not charge enough. We want to make at least $10 a script. I think everybody would agree that's fair. Make more if you can, if it makes sense, but yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Point of care testing, that's a great point. Yeah, those opportunities are all around you within your current customer base. You just have to make sure you focus on the right point of care tests, the ones that are easy to do. There's a point of care test booth, I think it's over there, right? Yeah. That can talk about those products that you can do, vitamin deficiency, things like that. I think COVID was a pretty good first step into that, as it's essentially was a point of care test. The capital cost to grow that's typically pretty low. The products aren't really that expensive, and the margin is really, really good. It's cash pay most of the time, and you can charge, typically better than like an OTC margin is what I've seen. So, good question.